Hello, Petal. How you doing? Surprise, surprise. An extra chapter. Well, maybe not an extra chapter. It depends how busy it is tomorrow. But I thought I'd sneak a sniffy one in today because, well, you know, it's my birthday. So I thought I might as well. Shh, don't tell anybody. How you doing? How have you been? How are things? How's it going? Is it tipping down with rain where you are? Because it's absolutely hooning it down here. It's blonking it down like nobody's business. But either way, I am feeling pretty awesome today, so I thought I'd do you an extra chapter. Yes, so many reasons, so little time. As ever, if you could leave me a little like, if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you don't have to leave a like. You can in fact turn it off and put it on elsewhere. However, if you do enjoy it, please leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, by all means, please do so. That's always lovely to hear from you. Tell me, what type of party hat would best suit a capybara? Or in fact, tell me your favourite party hat animal combo. That'd be quite awesome. Yes. If you want to hit the notifications bell so you don't miss an episode, that would be awesome. And if you want to share and subscribe, even better. But I'm pretty sure we're all share and subscribe so far. But if you're not, come on board. Welcome. Join us. Enjoy our little teeny tiny community here. We're full of awesome, awesome people. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling because it's nearly 2 minutes. And it's about time for Chapter 8 of Painted Dragon by the phenomenal Mr. Tom Holt. Where am I? Chubby smiled. You're safe, he said. I rescued you from certain death. Look upon me as your personal knight in shining armour. He checked himself. Let me rephrase that, he said. Your guardian angel. You mean you're out to get me? Chubby sighed. There are times when you want to have the niceties of combat theology explained to you, and there are other times when you just want to go to bed. I mean, he said, I want to offer you a job. We killed him, Chardonnay said. Apparently, George replied. Calls for a celebration, I reckon. Hey, Padre, we got any bubbly? But that was murder, Chardonnay replied uncomfortably. Wasn't it? Pesticide! Where the hell's that bloody vicar got to with the drinkies? You're a saint. And you killed him. Without provocation. He wasn't setting fire to anything or eating maidens. He was just sitting there. Yeah? George snarled, his feet up on the coffee table, size 12 Dr. Martens resting on disused Catholic heralds. Eating me in effigy. Charming. Anyway, bugger that, we're on the same side, remember? Chardonnay shook his head. I still don't really buy that, he said. That's like saying good and evil are basically the same thing. George, who had never been near a university common room bar in his life, but could nevertheless sense the onset of one of those ghastly, serious conversations about the meaning of everything. Narrator's note, my friends and I actually did solve world peace one time in the town mills in Andover. At least we thought we remembered that we had, and various alcoholic beverages had been imbibed. At great amounts. But we did. Sure of it. Just wish I could remember it. I digress. Got up and opened the drinks cabinet with his foot. Bollocks, he said, knocking the top of a Guinness bottle against the mantelpiece. That's like saying accounts is the same as the packing department. They're different, yes, but part of the same firm. Oh, I thought we were, you know, at war, sort of thing. Evil versus good, in competition for the soul of man. Listen, Pillock. If evil won, it would become good, like the opposition becomes the government. He glugged at the bottle until it was empty and dropped it in the fireplace.
Thought you were meant to be a management trainee, son. Don't they teach you boys anything?
Father Kelly peered nervously round the door and whispered that he'd got a bottle of champagne, if that's what they wanted. He looked nervous and semi-martyred, Terry weird in his own home, which suited him fine, because although he'd always reckoned he'd have made a cracking hostage, he spoke no foreign languages, and air travel gave him migraines. And, he added, there's a devil in the washing machine.
That'll be that hold all, George grunted. I told him to search the place, see where you're hiding the good stuff.
Father Kelly wasn't sure what good meant anymore, but from the context he guessed alcohol. Actually, he said, I haven't got any more. I can send up Mrs. McNamara if you... George made a scornful noise.
You don't fool me that easily, he said. In my day, first thing your priest did when he saw a gang of saints on the horizon, he put all the grog in a bucket and lowered it down the well. Always used to confess, though, especially when we told him we'd chuck him down after it. That, he added stonily, is a hint.
Actually, I haven't got a well.
I can improvise.
Father Kelly gulped and bolted. George listened after his retreating footsteps and winked.
He'll be back in under 10 minutes with a couple of crates. You mark my words, he said. Where was I?
Good and evil.
Yeah, them.
George yawned, stretched, and kicked his shoes off.
All a bit academic, really. I mean, what it all boils down to is... You see a dragon, say, wandering about on your patch, you scrag it, job done. What more do you need to know, for Christ's sakes? I mean, it's not exactly brain-bending stuff. Not like your angels dancing on the head of a pin, to which, in case you ever wondered, the answer is 6, unless they're doing the Valletta, in which case 8. I don't see what you're making all this fuss about.
Chardonnay shrugged helplessly. I don't know, he said. Maybe I'm not right for this line of work after all. When I joined, I thought there'd be something, non-controversial I could do, like keeping the books and doing budget forecast. Narrator's note. Having worked in finance for a lot of my life, I can say that most accountants are in fact demons in disguise. Just saying. I digress. Back to the story. Doing budget forecasts, working out cost-efficiency ratios and calculating depreciation of fixed assets on a straight-line basis, killing people. Narrator's note again, actually. Considering that on the other side of it, accountancy is actually the worst, maybe the 6th or 7th level of hell that you can possibly imagine living in for the rest of your life. Glad I got out of it, really. I digress. George treated him to a look of contemptuous pity.
Wouldn't do if we're all the same, son. I mean, if we were, then the likes of me couldn't kick shit out of the likes of you, for starters. Here, he added irritably, this isn't proper champagne. It's that naff Italian stuff. When that dozy parson gets back, I've got a good mind to pour the rest of it down his trousers. One thing I can't stand, it's blasphemy.
What? Grapes, said Mike, smiling. Flowers, women's magazines. I know you hate them all like the plague, so I'm building up an environment where you'll be desperate to leave. That way you'll get well faster. Bianca tried to rub her eyes, but found she couldn't, because her arm was cocooned in plaster and hanging by a wire from a frame above her head. I'm in hospital, right? She said.
Oh,
Mike scowled.
Someone must have told you.
How did I get here? You got blown up, Mike replied, through a mouthful of grape pulp.
Along, I'm very sorry to have to tell you, with your statue. Note the singular, by the way. There's bits of marble dragons scattered about as far as Henley and Arden, but no St. George. They're saying it's the animal rights knot.
Suddenly, There was something solid and awkward in Bianca's throat, possibly a bit of dragon shrapnel. The statue's gone, then? Mike nodded.
All the king's horses are reported to have backed it in as a lost cause, he replied. All the king's men are still at it, but only because they're paid hourly. If it's any consolation, you're in all the papers, and there's the guy from the Celebrity Squares in the waiting room right now.
What with the plaster and the wires, Bianca couldn't sink back into the pillows with a hollow groan, so she did the next best thing and swore eloquently. Mike agreed that it was indeed a pity. A pity. They murdered my statue, and you say it's a pity.
These things happen.
Is there anything else you're particularly allergic to that I can bring in? I seem to remember you can't stand chrysanthemums, but they'd sold out of the kiosk, so I got daffs instead. Mike.
Yes.
Go away. I thought you'd say that, Mike said, and left. The dragon looked down, then back over his shoulder. Cautiously, he spread his wings and folded them again. Finally, he breathed out the tiniest, finest plume of phlegm he could manage, so as not to incinerate the extremely plush office he was apparently sitting in.
All present and correct, Chubby said. Actually, in all the panic, we knocked off a toe, but we put it back on with araldite as soon as we got here, and it seems to have taken okay. Grateful?
The dragon nodded.
Extremely, he said. I had the distinct impression I was dying. I was in this restaurant, and then I was in the square again, inside the statue. I thought they tried to blow you up, Chubby replied. I got there just as a fat bloke with a moustache tripped over his feet and fell on the plunger. A sixth of a second later, and all you'd have been fit for would have been laning the bottom of goldfish bowls.
The dragon narrowed his eyes.
So, what happened? He said. What did you do?
Chubby shrugged modestly and folded his hands in his lap.
A sixth of a second can be a very long time, he said, especially if you boost another 12 hours into it using a state-of-the-art Kawagachia Heavy Industries temporal jack. He grinned. At $3 million per hour plus hire of plant and equipment, you owe me plenty, but we'll sort that out later. Anyway, during that time, we winched your statue up off the deck and into the cargo bay of the big Sikorsky, substituted a big chunk of solid marble and legged it. That way, when the fireworks started, there were plenty of bits of flying rock to make them think they'd succeeded. To them, of course, the sixth of a second lasted a sixth of a second, thanks to the KHI jack and a quick whip around with the soldering iron. Neat, yes? Rather. I'm impressed. It was very good thinking. Yes, said Chubby. Well, some of us don't go all to pieces at the first sign of trouble, and now here you are, safe and sound, and I sincerely hope, desperately anxious to try and repay the colossal debt of gratitude, ditto money, you now owe me. Correct?
The dragon nodded.
You said something about a job? Ah, yes, 2 jobs really, both of them right up your alley. Can I get you a drink, by the way? I've got 4-star diesel, aviation fuel, or ethanol, and I think there's a drop of terps left over from the Christmas party.
The dragon asked for a large ethanol, straight, no cherry.
2 jobs,
he repeated.
Connected?
Sort of, Chubby replied.
1, I want you to fry me some devils. 2, oh, don't touch that.
He was too late. The dragon, a born fidget, had let his claws drift across the keyboard of the obsolete old PCW. The screen started to glow.
Sorry, the dragon said. Oh, look, it's gone all green. Your wish is my... Well, hello, Fred.
The dragon blinked.
Nosha? Fred, mate, it's great to see you again. Nice outfit. Likewise.
The dragon grinned and only just managed to restrain a sigh of pleasure that would have melted the side of the building.
It's been a long time, Nosha. What, 3,000 years?
Easily that. How have you been keeping?
Well, the dragon replied, most of the time I've been dead, though I'm better now. And yourself?
Chubby, his eyes round as tennis balls, could contain himself no longer.
Nosha,
he demanded, your name
is Nosha. Zagranoj, and this is my old friend Fred Gundar. We go way back.
I trust, said Chubby bitterly, that none of this great to see you heard from Betsy lately stuff's going on my account. I mean, I don't mind soul-destroying work, but college reunions on the house, he worries, you know. The dragon nodded.
Weird sort of a bloke, he agreed, though he did just save me from getting blown up, and now he wants me to go torturing demons.
Ah! The dragon blinked.
You know about this?
Well, yes, of course. I never guessed the dragon would turn out to be you. Confused and feeling as left out as an empty milk bottle, Chubby finished off the dragon's ethanol and wiped his mouth on his sleeve. You guys, he said, it's no good. I've got to know, where do you two know each other from? The dragon turned his head and smiled.
Sunday school.
Drop a pebble in the sea off Brighton, and the ripples will eventually reach California. Likewise, blow up a statue in Birmingham, and you risk starting a revolution. A lot depends, of course, on the quality of the statue, because only the very best statues have the potential to be squatted in by unquiet spirits. The word unquiet, by the way, has been chosen with great care. The sound waves travelled fastest, of course, followed by the shock of air suddenly and violently displaced, in turn hotly pursued by microscopic fragments of dust and debris. The sound and the air dissipated themselves soon enough, but the dust floated on, carried on the winds far over the English Channel, southeast across France and down into Italy. Most of it fell by the wayside, to be whisked away by conscientious housewives or ploughed under, but one stray particle happened to drift into the great and glorious Academy Gallery in the city of Florence, where they keep possibly the most famous statue in the world, Michelangelo's David. Imagine that there's a wee video camera mounted on the back of this dust particle. Impossible, of course. Even the latest 12th generation salt grain size Kawakachi Optical Industries P7640 would be far too big and heavy. And you're watching the city come into focus as the particle begins its unhurried descent. Now we are directly over the Piazzale Michelangelo, where the coaches park for a good gulp and a nice lolly. Narrator's note, the humour of a nice lolly gulping and Michelangelo's David is not lost on me, so I'm going to try and continue on without breaking into giggles. We can see the khaki majesty of the River Arno, the Ponte Vecchio with its bareback shops, the grim tower of the Bargello, the egg-headed Duomo. Here is the square horseshoe of the Academy. Here is an open window, saving us 4,000 lira entrance fee. And here is the statue. It stands at the end of a gallery, in an alcove shaped like half an Easter egg. No miniature, this, 12 feet from curly hair to imperious toe, leaning slightly backwards, weight on his right foot, one hand by his side and the other holding what looks uncommonly like a sock over his left shoulder. There are those who will tell you his head and hands are too big, out of proportion to the rest of him, and that his hair looks like an old woolly mop head, fallen on the unsuspecting youth from a great height. And be that as it may, the consensus of civilized opinion holds that you are in the presence of a transcendent genius. So be told. The grain of dust flitted casually down and settled on David's nose. He sneezed. he mumbled, the way you do after a real corker of a sneeze. Absent-mindedly, he moved to wipe his nose with the thing that looks like a sock and found that he couldn't. Shit, he thought, my arm's stuck. Also, he observed, horrified, there is a whole gaggle of people over there staring at me, and I haven't got any clothes on. Not a happy state of affairs for a well-brought-up 12-footer who can't move. My God, he asked himself, how long have I been here like this? I can't remember. In fact, I can't remember anything. I must have been in a terrible accident which left me completely paralyzed and amnesiac. Oh, God! Except the train of thought chunted on, blowing its whistle and slowing down while a cow crossed the line. If I'd just had a terrible accident, surely I'd be in a hospital with nurses and lots of bits of tube sticking out of me, rather than standing in this very public place, stark naked. So what's going on here? Hello, said the grain of dust. It spoke quietly, in statue language. Don't, by the way, rush out and try and buy the lingophone tape, because there just isn't one. Not even an HMV, and even if there was, that narrative's not. I really miss HMV. The last time I went into an HMV was 2006, spent £277, it was my birthday then as well, and came out with rather a good grab. I haven't been in there since. I miss HMV. They used to sell skull candy headphones, which were pretty awesome. Can't see them these days either. I digress. Let's go back to this story. Much apologies, many apologies. And even if there was, a 12-year-old child would be 106 before he'd got as far as, what are you called? My name is John. Because statue language takes a very long time to learn and almost as long to say. Hello? David replied, puzzled. Where are you? On the end of your nose. There's ever such a good view from up here. David felt his nose begin to itch again. Okay, where are you? I'm a bit of dust from Birmingham. It's nicer here than Birmingham. What's your name? I don't know, David confessed. I don't think I know anything before you landed on my nose. It was you, wasn't it? Sorry about that. I just sort of drifted, if you know what I mean. How in the hell, David wondered, can you wait if you are immobile? Look, he said, can you tell me what's going on? For a start, why can't I move? You're a statue. Don't be thick. Statues are dead. I mean, not alive. Inanimate. Oh, are they now? Well, I've got news for you, Buster. Not only are some statues alive, they also walk about and talk and do all sorts of things. I guess, the dust mused, it's all a matter of casting off crippling social stereotypes and unlocking your full potential. How do you know? Because, the dust replied smugly, I've seen it, that's why. Where I've just come from, there was this enormous big statue of a dragon. Alive as anything it was, until they blew it up, of course. What? With dynamite. Or something. Well, they tried to, anyway. At the last moment, someone swapped me for it. Me as I was, that is. I was bigger then. If David had had skin, it would have goose-pimpled. They blew out the statue because it was alive, he demanded nervously. Narrator's note, much apologies for my Italian accent. I'm working on it, and I really need to as well because of the next book that I'm doing with another author. Oh my goodness, I digress. I suppose so. Can't see why else they'd want to do a thing like that, can you? I mean, statues aren't cheap. You don't just go around blasting them to smithereens because you quite fancy turning the vegetable patch into a rockery. Good God! David glanced out of the corner of his eye at the knot of people at the end of the gallery. They were quite definitely staring at him. Had they guessed? This is terrible. I must get out of here at once. Go on then. I can't. My bits don't work. Oh, Christ, there's a guy over there with some sort of box. Do you think... The other statues seem to manage okay. You can't be doing it right. David tried again. Still nothing. All right, he said. If you're so clever, how do you do this movement stuff? I assumed it just sort of happened when you wanted it to. Search me, replied the dust particle. I think it's something to do with the central nervous system. You got one of those? How should I know? You think I've got a zip somewhere I can undo and take a peek? Besides, even if I did, I wouldn't be able to use it. A gang of humans, all women, led by a big loud-voiced specimen with an umbrella, were walking down the gallery towards him. This is it, he told himself, the lynch mob. Well, having my entire life flash before my eyes isn't going to be a problem because the ruddy things only lasted about 2 minutes. On the other hand, there's not much of it I'd really want to see twice. All right, said the dust particle. Try falling over. What? Look down. Feel giddy. You're losing your balance. You're teetering. You're going to fall. Look out! The statue staggered, clutched at thin air, wobbled backwards and forwards for a split second and fell off its plinth with a crash. If people had been staring before, it was peanuts compared to the way they were staring now. Hell's a deed, groaned the statue. I banged my head. Worked though, didn't it? Come on. Without knowing how, or what it was he'd done to bring it about, David found himself scrambling to his feet, jelly-legged as a newborn calf. He remembered something, scooped up the thing that looked like a sock, and held it with both hands over his groin. Which way? He hissed. Quick! But there was no reply. He realised, have displaced the speck of dust, his only friend and guide in this terrible, unfamiliar, murderous world. He whimpered and began to back away until the wall stopped him. At the first touch of something cold on his bare shoulder blades, he squealed like a scalded pig, jumped in the air and dropped the sock. Then he grabbed it again and looked for an exit. There wasn't one. The only way out was through or over the lynch mob. Just as he was toying with the idea of crouching down behind the plinth and hoping they'd overlook him, a vagrant thought hit him and exploded in his brain like a rocket. Hey, he said to himself, I'm bigger than them. 6 floors below, in the gallery's engine room, a breathless guard burst in through the door marked Vietato entrare pericolo di morti and slithered to a halt in front of a broad mahogany desk. Chief! Chief! He panted. It's the David! It's come to frigging life! Or words to that effect in Italian. It sounds a bit cockney, but it's... Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Behind the desk, a large stocky man with very hairy arms stubbed out a cigarette. Oh, balls, he replied. Not another one. Honestly, Chief, straight up, I saw it with my own... what do you mean another one? The Chief stood up and unlocked a steel cabinet behind him. You haven't been here long, have you, son? 6 months, Chief. You mean to say it's... On average, the Chief replied, opening the cabinet door once every 5 years or so. Lately, though, there's been a poxy epidemic. Here, catch hold of these. Into the guard's quivering hands, the Chief pressed a big tranquilizer gun and a bandolier of darts. For his part, he chose a slide-action Mossberg 12-gauge, a pocket full of arm-piercing slugs, and a geologist's hammer. Finally, a tin hat each, goggles, and a torch. The David, you say? Yes, Chief. Fuck. It's always the thoroughbred, anonymous figure of unknown man, late 15th century Venetian school. Never get to whisper out to them. Right, let's go. The Chief walked so fast that the guard was hard-pressed to keep up with him. What are we gonna do, Chief? He gasped. Well, the Chief shrugged. Sometimes a couple of sleepy darts knock them out cold. Then all we have to do is drill out their brains and fill up with quick-drying resin. Other times, he added grimly, jacking around into the breech of the shotgun, we have to get a bit more serious. Serious? The Chief nodded. How do you think the Venus de Milo got that way? Resisting arrest? Had a bad fall in her cell. Act your age. When they got to the gallery, it had already been roped off and the doors were shut. Two-way radios crackled and white-faced guards stepped back to let the Chief through. Any movement? He demanded. A guard nodded. It chased all the visitors out, he said. Threw a couple of glass cases at them. We've sealed all the exits so it's not going anywhere, but it looks like it's in a very mean mood. The Chief grimaced. We'll see about that. There's no room for frigging wild men in my museum. Okay, I'm going in. He applied his boot to the door, which opened inwards. A fraction of a second later, his knife-edge reflexes propelled him backwards, just in time to avoid an airborne bronze bust, which would have reduced him to the consistency of strawberry jam had it connected. He slammed the door quickly. "Fuck me," he said. "It's gone bloody berserk. Of course, it doesn't help that it's one of the really big buggers. You get 13th century Sienese ivory miniatures running about the place. All it takes is 5 minutes and a stiff broom." He hesitated, then turned to the head porter. "Get me a bullhorn," he ordered. "A bullhorn. Evacuate the museum, then get on the red phone to the army. Special arts service. Tell them unless they get their bombs and gear, it will be the Wallace collection all over again." When the bullhorn came, the chief tested it to make sure it worked. Then, using a broom handle, he poked the door open a crack and waited. Nothing.
"We're in the gallery,"
he shouted.
"Come out there with your hands up and nobody's gonna get broken. You hear me?"
Silence.
"You've got to tell them to give yourself up and then we come in. 1.
"Hey!" A high-pitched voice, the chief noted, ear-splittingly sonorous, but basically reedy and terrified. But those are often the most dangerous. His mind went back to the early days, the time he'd had to talk down the Elgin marbles. "Maybe," he said to himself, "I'm getting too old for all this."
"I hear you,"
he replied. "I've got the Pieta, St. Matthew and the Big Bimbo provisionally attributed to Giovanni Bellini," yelled the voice. "You come in here and they all get it, understood?"
"Loud and clear, son, loud and clear."
He frowned and switched off the loudhailer.
"Was it just the David," he asked, "or were any of the rest of them at it as well?"
"Not that I saw, Chief," replied the guard. "Just the big guy." The chief rubbed his chin.
"Thought you said he was acting confused, like he didn't know what was going on."
"Looked like that to me, Chief."
"Yeah, only now he sounds like he's pretty well clued up. Like the Big Bimbo, I mean the Venus di San Lorenzo. The attribution to Bellini was only in last month's fine art yearbook. Somebody is in here with him."
"You on the outside!" The chief ducked down. Behind him, thin young men with wavy hair, black silk Giorgio Armani jumpsuits, Gucci balaclavas and bazookas were filing noiselessly into the corridor. The chief waved them into position and switched on the bullhorn.
"Receiving you. Over."
"Here's the deal."
"Different voice,"
muttered the head porter.
"Yeah," replied the chief. "Shut up."
"Here's the deal. We want no guns, no police, and no army. Have a Sikorsky air freighter in the piazza in 30 minutes. We want $10 million in uncut diamonds, clearance that land in Tripoli, and a free pardon. Do as we say, and the rocks walk."
"Actually,"
interrupted another voice.
"That's him."
"Who?" "David."
"Yeah, shut up."
"Actually," said the second voice, "they don't, do they? And anyway, haven't you tried to fall over first?" This exchange was followed by several seconds of heated whispering, which the chief couldn't quite catch. By the time they'd brought up the boom mics, the debate had ended.
"Okay, guys,"
muttered the chief. Narrator's note, I'm really sorry I can't stick to one accent and stay with it, but anyway, I digress. Let's try and carry on. "Here's the plan. You boys go round the side, abseil in through the skylight. You smoke grenades and thunder flashes. You six come with me in through the door. I cover the David, you take out the other sucker, whoever the fuck he is. Remember," he added gravely, thinking of the high-velocity bronze bust, "they're presumed armed. Busted. Busted and dangerous, so if there's any hint of trouble, get your shot in first and let the guys with the dustpans and glue sort it out later. Ready?" 12 balaclavaed heads nodded. "Right then, on my command." It was a grand spectacle, if you like that sort of thing. Narrator's note, not my accent.
I digress. Crash went the glass roof, whoosh went the smoke bombs, bang went the stun grenades, crunch went the big oak doors, kaboom went the bazookas, reducing to fine grey and rubble 2 half-length statues of constipated-looking goddesses, no loss by anybody's standards, and a somewhat less than genuine Della Robbia Rhodes screen, which had been a thorn in the gallery's side ever since someone had noticed the words "Made in Pakistan" from sustainable hardwoods chiselled around the back. "And oh shit, where have they gone?" went the chief, standing gobsmacked by 2 empty pedestals. The birds had, apparently, flown. In the confusion, nobody noticed that the commando squad had, apparently, recruited 2 new members during the course of the attack. One tall, athletic-looking specimen, rather unsteady on his feet, and one short, bandy-legged example given to lurking in shadows. While the gallery was still full of smoke, shouting, and the joyous sound of hobnailed boot on irreplaceable artefact, these 2 new recruits slipped quietly past the guards. Narrator's note, where did they get the boiler suits from? I digress. Down the corridor, and having shed their masks and swiped a couple of overcoats from the cleaner's room, out into the street. "Yeah, hey!" exclaimed the shorter of the 2, punching the air. "We made it!" "Yes," David replied. "Didn't we just?" He stopped and looked at his companion, and a puzzled look swept across his face. "Excusey," he said. "Yeah? Who are you?" Kabing! Okay, so I really was slightly underprepared for the Italian aspect of that, and it doesn't bode well for the fact that I've got to do an entire audiobook based in Sicily. Is it Sicily? I'm sure it's Sicily. I'm pretty sure it's Sicily. So I'm really quite concerned about my Italian accent. It's easier if I'm trying to be a woman, but when you're trying to be a man, it's so much completely different. Oh my goodness gracious me, what is going to happen? Please laugh along with me. Please, please, please. So, yes. What was the name of that duo that sang in the 80s? It was a really dodgy video. It's a dark-haired guy. I think he was Italian, or was he Spanish? And the lass was blonde. Renee and Renata. Save your love, my darling, save your love, for all the stars and moon and sky above. Oh my goodness. If you ever want to have 80s cheese at its absolute best, I mean, you cannot deny the guys' vocals. They were both amazing singers, but for 80s cheese and tight trousers, and I think maybe might have been the inspiration to Jack Black's, oh God, what's the name of that character? Do you know, my brain is not working today. The Conquistador, not Conquistador. What are they called? Bloody hell, I'm going to have to stop. Hold on a minute. Right, I'm back. I actually cheated on that point. Jack Black's Nacho Libre. If you see this Renee and Renato Save Your Love on YouTube, right? Jack Black's Nacho Libre. Separated at birth, or grandfather and grandson. Either way, they seriously. So, thank you for indulging my attempts at an Italian accent that I really need to practice. Thank you for laughing along with me, because we've got to laugh, because if we don't, we cry. But please, stay safe, keep warm, hydrate if you're too hot, have a nice cup of tea or a cup of coffee if you're too cold, or use a hot water bottle, because everybody likes them this time of year, especially when the weather turns a bit on the darker, damper side, you know. But thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you so very, very much. And if you like, leave a comment in the comment section. You can rib on me and roast me as much as you like, because that was pitiful, man. Take it easy. Stay safe. I'm not going to give you any more songs today. You've already had an 80s jammy once. Oh my goodness, I apologise. Big love. Take care.